All right, we're just about to get started. Can everyone be seated, please? Pat, can you close the door for us, please?
Miss Pat.
Miss Pat, can you close the door for us, please? Thank you.
We could be.
My sheep know my voice. They hear me all the time.
Yes, I'll be calling you for prayer in just a little bit too. Be calling you for prayer in just a little bit. All right, the SBREIA meeting for July the 17th, 2023 is now being called to order. Can we please stand for a word of prayer by Mr. Calvin Presley?
Lord, we come in the precious name of Jesus. Thank you for another opportunity to live the life that you've given us, an abundant life, Lord. Help us to continue to do the things that are pleasing in your sight, in word and in deed. We pray for the peace of our nation, Lord. We pray for wisdom and understanding for those who lead our country, Lord. We pray for the sick and shut in, the widows and the orphans, Lord. Bless them, Lord, with all spiritual blessings and heavenly praises in Christ Jesus. In his name, we pray, believe, forgive, and receive. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Mr. President, for that wonderful prayer. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I want to welcome everyone to our SBREIA meeting. Of course, last month we had a tremendous storm come through, and unfortunately we had to cancel our meeting, so we'll be kicking off again with our regular monthly meetings here at SBREIA. Now it's time to recognize any special guests or first-time guests, and I believe we have one first-time guest, one fine gentleman from the Air Force there.
Yay.
Any special guests or first-time guests? Would you please stand and let us know about you?
Okay, so Dennis Gay, originally born in Vermont, military for 20 years, retired just recently. So now I actually get to choose what I do every day, which is extremely confusing. So started doing some real estate stuff about a year ago here. Owned a couple houses before, but had to sell them off with all the moving around. So we bought a rental property here about a year ago and then just closed on a second one in May. So we're just trying to get at least one a year, but I'd like to get about one every 6 months if I can swing it, but no hard set rules, so.
Thank you, Dennis, and welcome to SBREIA. All right, now we're down to our Secretary's report, and it'll be Ms. Nancy Nelson, please.
Short report this month. The board met last Wednesday, and we discussed how we're going to focus on getting new members for our group and retention of existing members as well. We take our guest speakers very seriously because we know that other groups out there, they're more networking groups, and we want to really adhere to our mission statement as to the education of our members. And that's why we do what we do with working very hard to get really good speakers for that education piece. So that was a big part of the discussion at the board meeting. We approved the financials that Dolores will present shortly. We've got guest speakers lined up for this fall, but certainly if anybody has a topic that they would like us to try and get a speaker for, we'd love assistance with direction on who you want to hear. And we've had some great speakers in the recent past, from the 1031 exchange person. which is really great because it saves you money on taxes. We had Legal Shield, which will save you money on legal bills. So we're all about helping folks get the best bang for their buck, and that's about it for the board meeting. And as Tommy said, our meeting last month was canceled, so there's no review on that. That's about it.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson, for that fine report. Now we to our treasury report. That'll be Mr. Lois Smith for our treasury report.
Did you have any myself trained? If anybody knows of anything, I need to buy a house $150,000 or less. I'm doing a 1031 rollover, which means I'm rolling the money from one house to another house to avoid all those taxes. So I have got until August the 12th to identify a property out in Stonewall, North DeSoto Estates, anywhere out in there. I live out in Stonewall, but it's very difficult to find a property out there. I just don't want to get any more in Shreveport. I want to get them out there. So if y'all know of anything, please let me know. I may have to go over what I think I want to pay. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen on this one. I did that last year, and it worked out very well. But anyway,
So 150, right?
Huh?
150?
150 or less is what I'd like to do. I may have to go up to 200,000. I could. In Stonewall, if you don't know, we just have the high-priced houses. We kind of don't have a middle out there. There's not a good middle out there. But I'm telling you, I rent these things like I was buying these big double-wide mobile homes on could be an acre. I've had 2.5 acres or more. And I would get those things, you know, whenever the bank went to sell them, or 50 or 60,000, wouldn't have to put much in them. And then I could rent them dudes for $1,500 a month. And so I'm spoiled. I am totally spoiled to my Stonewall houses, and I wish I could buy 5 more right now. I would, probably. But anyway, you can't do that now. So if anybody knows anything, let me know. I just had to say that. Okay, we have our wonderful Tammy that just takes care of all this bookkeeping, and I do very little. But anyway, we have an up-to-date, we have 60 members. 60 members. Now, a lot of those came from last year that we kept the membership this year. A lot of those, that's what happened on that. But anyway, we have got $960 that we have collected this year. Tammy and I made a budget, and we're kind of going along with our budget. But we have in the bank, we have $8,724.87. And our expenses don't run much, but we have spent this year a little over $3,000, $35,87.54. We have never had a paid bookkeeper treasury, but that's one of the best things we've ever done. She keeps up with our membership. We know who's came, we know who's members, and she gives me this is the up-to-date today financial statement, you know. So anyway, I'm just so thankful for all that. If anybody have any questions on our finances, we're just kind of, we don't spend much for anything, basically. But anyway, all right. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Dolores, for that outstanding report. And now, anybody for buy, sell, and trade? I think Dolores just
She said they didn't.
no buy, sell, and trade. Outstanding. So now we're down to our speaker, our guest speaker tonight. That would be me. All righty. Marcus, you about ready?
I'm ready.
From the beginning. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, just a little bit about myself. Some of you guys are familiar with me. I've spoken to several members before, but I joined SBREIA probably in 2015, and it has been just a windfall of information from Nancy, Dolores, several other members I've spoken to. I've bought properties here from SBREIA members as well, and during the process, I started out just like everybody else. Most people have spreadsheets to try to line up their properties with, you know, an x-axis and a y-axis, listing the properties as well as the expenses on that. But I needed something more as I start to grow, and I found this little software online. Good. Okay. All right. Okay, that's much better. All right. And now we'll start with the next slide, please. Is it the tab, Marcus?
Mhm.
Okay, next slide, please. All right, 5 ways to collect rent. You can collect rent in person, by mail, direct deposit, online, or peer-to-peer. And as we go along, I'll go over each one of these topics as we go along. Next slide, please. All right, collecting rent in person. One of the things that you have to worry about when you're collecting rent in person is you have to drive out, it's time consuming. Also, depending on what class of properties that you have, if you have C properties or less, then there could be the safety issue of driving over collecting the rent. In addition to, you have to collect cash, give out receipts, it's time consuming. And next slide, please. All right, United States Postal Service. All right, I tried that. So now you got to purchase the stamps and envelopes. That's the cost of printing. Lost in the mail. Recently I had a tenant, they was mailing them in. I usually print out the envelopes, self-addressed back to my business address. They got lost in the mail twice this year. So that's one of the problems. It wasn't their fault. I mean, they never missed a payment. They're always paying on time. They got lost in the mail, and when you're doing general mail, there's no way to track it unless it's priority mail or anything more advanced than that. So that's one of the difficulties with mailbox money. Probably about a 95% accuracy rate on getting your mail through the mail. All right, next slide, please. Direct deposit. So what I decided to do with that particular tenant was, they live close to one of the banks that I'm affiliated with, which is Barstow Credit Union. And what I learned from them was they created a rental account. So generally speaking, you would have your routing number and your tracking number to your account. So when they're making deposits, my concern was they would get a printout receipt of all of my assets and how much money they have in the bank. But they have a little software there to give them a notice: do not hand out receipts. So even when I make a deposit and I pass my ID, I get a receipt, but it doesn't have a balance on it. But it's still concerned because it's only good as the person at the window could have a new person there, so that was a big concern to me. So what I learned was they have a rental account. And what they do is they use my business phone number and link that to the account. So when they put my business phone number on a deposit receipt, that goes directly into that particular account, and I just transfer that to my business. So that's one way of solving the problem. Barstow Air Force Base has facilities all over here in Shreveport-Bossier area. So that was a pretty good thing that I learned from them. And the other problem that you may have with that is are they depositing the correct amount or the full amount? In addition to that, I decided that I was going to let them put it in the night deposit box. So within the next business day, I can go online, see if they make the deposit, excluding, federal holidays and weekends, that type of thing. So it's pretty much a safety net on that. Next slide, please. Tap it about 2 more times, Marcus, until it. There we go. So what I learned to do was to use some software online. So one of the advantages of going online, no envelopes, no stamps. You don't have to worry about it being lost in the mail. It saves a lot of time. You have access anywhere. I can access it from multiple devices, whether I have a laptop, phone, tablet, I still can have access. The tenants also have access to the software, and it's convenient for them. I get a receipt, electronic receipt of the transaction. They get a receipt of the electronic transaction. The money's deposited into my account, ACH, automatic clearinghouse, and I can monitor that online. All right, the other thing about it is it's an integrated platform. It usually takes 3 to 5 business days for me to get the money in my account, but I can monitor the process as it goes online. Next slide, please. Keep tapping. All right, so I found this company about 10 years ago. It's called Avail Co. They started out as Renolutions, but they since changed their name to Avail Co. And as we go through the process, I will tell you some of the finer points about this particular software. Now, it's a sole proprietor software. I'm not the owner, I'm just an end user, but I recommend it for any novice person just getting started out, buying properties and trying to manage properties. All right, next slide, please. All right, so they originally changed their name from Renolution to Avail, and this is what you will see on the sign-in screen. Next slide. And what I learned to do with the software is I usually start on the left-hand side, just in a descending order, and as we go along, you will see that we'll go from descending to left to right. So on the descending order, this is just a general dashboard. Just going down, they have a lot of educational information on the software. Rental analysis, I did that recently. That was like $19, but it did a lot of things for me as far as all the comparable rentals within the area. And I do have a little spot in the program that we can go over some of that. They also have a marketing website. So when you sign up for this, you have the ability to market your properties online and have a website as well. And as you can see, the little plus sign with properties, those are just a few properties that I have. Of course, I have a few more, but it's just been truncated off. Next slide, please. All right, next slide. Okay, so what the software does is when you get ready to hit that plus sign right about here, then this slide comes up, and then you can add a building right here. You can see I have existing building properties right here. If you have a multi-family property where a duplex, quadplex, or something like that, then you can also list it as the address A, B, C, and D. So you can keep up with each one of those individual places on that software. Next slide, please. Right here where you start typing in, if it's 123 Main Street in Bossier City, then it will start populating that for you. Anywhere within the continental United States, you just start typing in what that address of property that you bought or that you're getting ready to rent, then it'll start populating that address for you. You just click on it from that point on. Next slide. All right, this is where you enter your banking information. I use Barstow Federal Credit Union. Use one account. This is the savings account, and this is where I make all the security deposit. And this is the checking account. This is where all the cash flow goes into the checking accounts from the rental monthly payments. And of course, you can see where I have assigned these banks here. Next slide. This is the website that I just mentioned earlier. It says Resolutions. I think they may have changed it to Avail, but it just gives you a little background when people looking online to try to find out what properties you have, how you can market yourself with your company's name and address, and all of these home for rent, our properties. So when you click on that, it sort of gives you a list of properties. If I got 3 vacancies It'll pull up those vacancies and give you a collage of pictures of each properties. So I generally take 8 to 15 pictures inside and out when we get ready. Next slide, please. So now we'll be working from left to right, going across the software. So this is your listing page. So you got your house rent ready, and you're getting ready to publish it. It will publish on Avail, this software. It publishes on Zillow, Trello, HotPads, Apartments.com, Apartments List, WalkScore, and there are several others that they syndicate with. So when you're advertising out there, then someone generally they're sitting at home playing with their laptop, they're looking for a place to stay, and they key into one of those databases, and they will find your place online. Next slide, please. All right, so now we get down to the listing responses, and we'll go to the next slide, and maybe I may have one on the next slide. Go ahead, Marsh. Yes, we do. So this gentleman was looking at one of my properties, and he said he would like to fill out an application. I could request the application here, and then my response to him online was, my apologies, it rented out today. Thanks for your interest. So you can keep up with your leads as well as they're coming through with this software. Next slide. So again, we're moving from left to right. This is the online application. Again, one of the benefits of this software is that it's end to end, from the beginning all the way to the end. So now we have listed our property. And now we are down to the application. This is the online application. I generally do the full bundle, and they went up on the price to like $55, but it includes the job history, the rental history, income verification, credit score. That's one of the main things that I look at. Several years ago, the bank's minimum credit score was for lending was 640. I pretty much stay pretty close to that area. That's the indication of how well they pay. If you are paying water bill, light bill, gas, all the essentials, pretty much a pretty good client. I don't knock off for medical bills or student loans or anything like that, but if you are paying everything, all your essentials, that's a pretty good indicator. But the credit score, combine that with 640 or somewhere close by, then it looks like it's a pretty good candidate. Next slide, please. I know this is very small, but this is just a general online application. It gives a little bit about themselves here, where the house is located, and then it has the standard questions that you can add. If you had any more questions, you can add to the software. And it has some questionnaires about whether you allow pets or anything like that. I do not allow pets, maybe service animals. Of course, we have to by law, but generally speaking, no pets. Next slide. Okay, this is just a generic online lease from Avail, and the software generates that. You input their name, their email, the rent, and here's the beautiful thing about this software is that they constantly update it. They go into the Louisiana database, particularly with the waiver. I have a waiver in mind as far as the 5-day waiver. I think it's 47 Criminal Code Procedure 4701, where after 5 days, if I haven't received rent, then I don't have to give them a notice. I can go straight to the marshal office and file for an eviction from that point on. But it's always built into that contract. Next slide, please. And again, this is where she signed online, electronic. This is where I signed electronic. So I don't have to bring the application or lease to their house, let them sign, and I sign. Everything is done online. Next slide, please. All right. You can also upload your own software. Your own lease. If you have a lease that you like, you don't like their lease, then you can upload your own lease. And this is an example or illustration of a lease that I did way back in 2018. Next slide. All right, so we're going from left to right, and now we're down to the leases. Again, you can create a new lease online. This was back in 2018. The property was renting for $625, and not $625 anymore. But you can see where the tenant signed, I signed, and then they set up the payments. Next slide. All right, so the lease has already been completed. Rental insurance, that's a good policy to have. Let them have rental insurance. It's pretty cheap, anywhere from $15 to $20, maybe less. But it covers most of their properties inside in case a storm come through and rain inside their house and damage their property. Then they have rental insurance. Also, it covers the lead paint pamphlet. I think that was back in the 70s. It covers that. In addition, that you have a move-in check-off list over here to your right, where you can communicate with your tenants online by sending them messages within the software. Next slide, please. Okay, there's additional drop-down box where you can actually view the lease online, you can download the lease, turn on monthly. And what that's for is if the tenant says, turn off monthly? Turn on monthly, yeah, turn on monthly. So if the tenant decides, I'm gonna be moving out, give me an advance notice, then, and they're not sure, they're trying to find another place, then you turn on monthly. That means you went from the lease, I usually do 6 months lease, now you're doing a 30-day monthly lease. And that's also good as far as eviction as well. And then of course, if they move out, you can cancel the lease early. Next slide, please. This is the check-in list. Review and sign lease, check. All tenants pay rents online. Coordinate the exchange of the keys for move-in. Confirm utility transfer. One of the things that I learned from Dolores just years ago was the owner-agent agreement with SWEPCO, which if a tenant moves out, then the electricity stays on the property. You just pay the little $20, $30 a month. And you still can show your properties. You got electricity, you got air, all your appliances are working. You don't have to go pay the big deposit once a month just to get it turned back on. So I think when I signed up for SBREIA back in 2018 is one of the things that I learned from Dolores with that. And of course, the lease has been finalized. Next slide, please. All right, I only do 6 months leases, and this is just a little graph of the lease. One of the reasons I do 6 months leases, I started out doing 12 months leases, and I was having some difficulty with the tenants. So I realized that, they can renew the lease every 6 months, but at least I know if it doesn't work out, I can get my property back in 6 months' time. I don't have to renew the lease. If they're a professional tenant, they're destroying the property, not keeping it up, then it gives me the leverage to say, you know what, you signed a 6 months lease, and now you're not honoring the agreement, I can get you out in 6 months. All right, next slide, please. All right, this is where on the payments on this particular software, you can see where we make the 625. Indeed, she started out with money orders, sending them through the mail, and these, so you can sort of manually enter that in with checks as they was coming through. I think on this one where she paid $200, she really liked the place. So I tell you what we do, just give me $200. That takes the property off the market. If you don't come through, then you forfeit $200. Then I can just use that just to make some additional improvements on the property. And this is the new charges where you can add extra charges like late fees or anything else that you have, parking fees, anything like that. Next slide, please. I think we went over that. Next slide. All right, now so we done walked across from listing, application, lease, payments, and now we're on the maintenance. This is one of the things that I like, just saving a huge ton of paperwork with work orders. So all of your maintenance requests are done online. They type in, there's a leak underneath the faucet. And I say, okay, send me a picture or a video. If I can't get to it and fix it, then I just go to my Rolodex, call my handyman maintenance guy, I forward him the information, he goes over there and fix it, he sends me another picture that's been fixed, that problem's been solved. And if you see over here where it says cost, this category right here, they incorporated a new accounting tab on the software. So this cost will be part of your expenses that you keep up from month to month. So you know you got your income coming in from your rentals, then you got to subtract your costs as far as the repairs that you made. And of course, you know, if you type in again, a rear screen door, you can view the request, or you can close the ticket. Next slide, please. All right, again, you can stop payments for the lease if there's an eviction going on. And this is what I set mine up as. I get an email, tell me when the tenants make a payment. Tell me when the tenants make a deposit. Tell me when the status of the payment changes. CC me on all payment reminders. So just about 5 days before the rent, the email starts going out automatically. Send a reminder 5 days before payment is due. Send a reminder the day before payment is due. Send a reminder on the day the payment is due. Send a reminder 5 days late. So these things, you don't have to call them and say, listen, you know, you're 5 days late. You have to pay the late fee. They'll be notified automatically through the software. Next slide, please. The huge thing that I learned about this particular software is the educational component right here. And this is just a little software book that they have online. Rent collection, first month, prorated rent, late fees and grace periods, encourage on-time payments, how to handle late payments, partial late payments, raising rent control. So these are some of the things that are built into this software. It's very educational. So that's one of the big components that I like. It sort of folds into what SBREIA does as well as far as the education component. Next slide. Now we're into the reports. You can get a report of all your listings, all your applications, all your lease, all your payments, and all your maintenance. Next slide. You can get a report on rent roll, tenant roster, who's late, all the payments that you receive. You can download all those reports right here, already built into the software. And now this might be a good time as far as price point. I think their price point is you have 4 properties. It was $20 per property, so I think this went up like $28 for 4 properties. So if you got 8, maybe it's, you know, 2 times as much, but it's not bad, it's marginal. And again, you write those off on your taxes as professional and legal, right?
Is that monthly?
Yes. Next slide, please. We spoke about the maintenance. You can see where I had a few little expenses here and there, but this is where the rental income is coming in. These two are combined. I get one online from my son, and then the wife sends the other one online as well. And of course, these are just some ideas of what my rent is. One for $825. I think the lowest I got in my portfolio is $640. But again, this software here, you can download through Excel. Is it Excel? Excel. Download to Excel, import it into your yearly software. I use, a lot of folks use Quicken. I use Quicken for rental homes. Some folks use QuickBooks, but this data you can also export over as well. Getting ready for tax time. Next slide, please. All right, this is a rental analysis that I did. So I paid $20 to Avail for a rental analysis. And what it does is gives me all of the comparables here, or the properties within that area. It gives me the number of bedrooms, as well as the rental prices. Next slide. It also, and it's a little further here, but it also covers what the Section 8 is paying in this area, and some market graphs. Next slide. This area here is the zip codes, so it gives you comparative analysis of everything within your particular zip code where your house is rented at, and whether or not the prices are going down or. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, now there are several other softwares online. One recently came out called, Rent Ready. They advertise a lot. Cozy's been around for a little bit, And in their case, they don't have the lease agreement. But the one that I use that's been around for about 10 years is Avail.co. So when you're shopping around for some new software, you just compare all the software. I found that for the price point, Avail.co was probably the best thing because they had a robust file to deal with. Next slide, please. All right, peer-to-peer. So if you don't want them to pay online with the software, which I pretty much include on my lease, that once they sign up, they'll pay within Avail, then you can accept it by Cash App. You can manually input that. Zelle is a very good product. Most of the banks use Zelle. Barstow Federal Credit Union does. Capital One use Zelle. And that's peer-to-peer. So they know at the first of the month, they send that money as a wire transaction, goes directly to your account. Venmo is another one. I'm not too happy with it. Apple Pay and Google Pay. Next slide, please. All right, here's a summary. So we went over the 5 ways to collect rent. We went over the Avail software. We went from left to right on the listing your property, the application, the built-in software lease. Also, you can upload your own lease. We went over the online payments, the benefits of that as far as saving time and money, and we went over the maintenance that's built in the software with the work orders. Again, they started out as Rentolutions. They changed their name to Avail.co, and now we're at the Q&A. Any questions?
Could you clarify the cost? Did you say for 4 properties, it's $28 a month?
4 properties, $28 a month.
It's not each though, it's...
No, for that block of 4.
Okay.
And it may be, Nancy, it may be 5, but it's sort of like a little range in there.
Somewhere in there.
But yes, so in my case,
That's cheap.
That's dirt cheap.
dirt cheap. I mean, they got a lot of more expensive software, but this thing is really geared toward the novice real estate investor, up to about 10. I mean, you can manage as many as you want, but I would suspect that once you get about 10 properties, then you might want to look at a management company to manage it for you. But up until that point, this is excellent software. Yes.
Have you had any problems using the software? Any issues that come up?
They are very responsive. I haven't had any problems. Prior to COVID, you could call it and get somebody on the phone right away. During the COVID, of course, everybody was working from home, and you still was getting the answers, but they tell you leave your phone number and they call you back. But they have a very helpful help desk. The help desk is very outstanding, and they always return your phone calls. And it's also a help desk pretty much built into the software. So if you type your question into the software, then someone will call you back, within a reasonable amount of time to sort out your problems. But no, I hadn't had any issues with it.
And all the time that you've used it, I see they have a maintenance tab that tells you different maintenance. Does it do a tracking, and does it give you suggestions for maintenance for you to do given a certain time frame? So say if it's carpet and it wears out in 4 years,
Right.
and you're coming up on 4 years, does it give you an alert to say, hey, maintenance item, potential maintenance item? Does it do that?
Unfortunately, it does not do that. At one point, they had some contractors that they was dealing with. They had a little plug-in for some contractors in case you had a carpet problem. And if you didn't know any local contractors, then they had somebody that you can call and reach out to. But the tracking part is that for me is to keep up with my expenses of how much money that I spent on expenses that I have to deduct from this house versus my income. And we all got into this game of trying to manage the cash flow, and that was a big tool for me to see how much I earn, how much I lost, and then the main point is the net. What is my actual net from that particular house? And all the houses individually have to stand up on their own. Once you get about 9 or 10, maybe let's say for an example, you get 10 properties, well, 2 can be down because they ain't gonna pay for the 2. 3, you might want to watch it just a little bit, but once you get to that point, you cross that threshold, right about 8 or 9 properties, you cross that threshold, you pretty much can rest easy. With this software, one of the things I like about it is that once I get my house rent ready, and I get it ready for a showing, I can schedule it, the showing within the software. I think we just showed an example, some guy named Dave, they set an appointment on the software, a date to where I can meet them there. But I usually, one of the things just by being in this business for so many years, I usually tell the potential clients or leads, once you get there, call me. I'm about 30 minutes away. If I push it, I can get there within 20 minutes. But if they're interested, they're gonna wait 20 minutes. And I usually have, soft drinks and things of that nature once I arrive. But it keeps me from making a false trip to a property and they don't arrive. But I generally schedule my leads throughout. I'll pick a Saturday and I start around 9 and I schedule 15 of them, as many as I can get for that day. I say 15, let's get a fair number by 10. But I schedule them all throughout the day. And out of that 10, if 6 or 7 show up, I win. I just have a little time for the 2 that didn't show, 2 or 3 didn't show up, just dust off some things and sweep up real good and get the house nice and cold for the next one to come through. So that's what I generally do. I tried the open house, that didn't work out too good, so I just schedule them 1 hour from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, and if they show up a little early, then they get to go in with the other 2. And it gives me a little bit of competition because you're not the only person interested in this house. And when they're walking out, there's somebody else is pulling in the driveway. So now it gives them a little bit of motivation that if you really want this house, then you have to, be sure that you can qualify for the house. And speaking of qualifications, 1/3 of their income has to go towards the rent. 1 out of 3. They have to, provide for themselves to eat, the water, the gas, electricity. And so just because they fill out their application, and once I get their data, as far as their income statements and everything, I analyze that. And in their mind, I can afford this house. But the numbers doesn't bear that out. You really can't afford this house. All it takes is one incident, and you're gonna be calling me saying that you're gonna be late. I don't tolerate lateness. I understand that you don't have the money, and I'm compassionate with that, but you cannot live here any longer. And I immediately start the eviction. Don't talk to me, talk to the marshal. He'll be knocking on your door in about 5 days with the eviction report. That usually gets their attention. But once I start the process, I don't back out. Yeah. Any more questions?
On the application screening process, if the tenant does not qualify for your property, does this program have the letters? It's called an adverse action letter that you have to submit to the person, and it basically tells them to communicate with the people who did your screening, because it's a legal situation that we potentially can be held liable for. If we say, well, I'm rejecting you.
Yes.
Or why are you rejecting me? I don't have to engage the potential tenant because they're via the letter directed to speak with, in my case, track 1. And track 1 has a letter that I can print out, mail to that person so they have a hard copy of their rejection. I don't have to tell them, you're rejected, I don't accept your paperwork, so on and so forth. That's the first question.
Short answer is yes.
They have an adverse action report?
Yes, it's a short little, it's not long, but it pretty much lets you know whether or not they've been approved or disapproved for it. It doesn't go into a lot of details, and you don't want to go into a lot of details of the reason why,
Right.
but yes, it does.
Okay. Next question. Do you accept multiple applications as your clients, potential clients, view the property? Person comes at 9, they like the property, you give them an application. I don't know, this is how I do it.
Right.
They like the property, they want the application. I collect the funds, in my case $35.
Right.
Prior to them leaving. I don't hand out applications without accepting the money to screen the application. I can give the application, I don't care whether they send it back to me or not, but you're gonna give me $35 if I give you this application. Make an airplane or whatever you want out of it, okay? But then that process, so then that person at 9, I have an application of them. The person at 11 wants to fill out an application. I give them an application. Let's say I give 5 applications. You said you screen 10 people a day?
Right.
You hand out X number of applications. Do you collect the funds on each one of those, and do you process all of them, and or do you tell them you're number 3, you're number 4?
Okay, well, this is what the software does. So when that person comes to view your property, then you direct them to avail.co. Or you send them an application either by email or by their phone number. Either way, you can text them the application or you can email them the application. So that's the beginning of the process, but it also weeds out the people who are not serious. Because if you don't see on your laptop that they fill out the application, then they're just kicking the tires to begin with.
Did they pay you money for the application?
If they complete the application. So when they go online, say for an example that you're a potential lead, right? I would say for an example to you, I say, Mr. Presley, I need your phone number, I'm gonna send you an application. It hits your phone, you click on the link, you fill out that I'm watching the application step by step. Say it's a 10-step process. All right, you get to 5 and you stop. I know that you stop. I can hit a button and say, okay, are you gonna complete this or not? With the avail code. All right, so let's say that you go all the way through the 10-step process, and at the very end it says there's a $55 fee. I'm not paying the fee. You're paying the $55 fee that covers your background check, your history check, your credit scores, everything that we went over. It covers all of that. And once you pay the $55, okay, now you're vested. Now you're vested. I'm saying, you know what? You're a potential customer because you completed the first hurdle of getting into this property. But I got 9 other people. So now I'm looking at their income. You know, I need 3 to 4 months income. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at their credit report. I'm looking at their credit score. So I'm analyzing this person. And so out of all those 10 people, I picked the best possible candidate. And then I would say the property has rented, and then, or I would hit the adverse letter and tell them, you know, why they didn't get it.
Have you ever had to do that part, the adverse action letters, etc.?
I think I did it once or twice, but the person who's applying for your property is you let them know, because now you have the leverage. You want something that I have. You got to play by my rules. You're going to go through the software, you're going to sign up online, you're going to pay the $55. Once you sign the lease, then it reverses. They have the leverage. I got to do something to get them out. So once I got the leverage on the intake process, I'm gonna use every tool that I got, that I have on the intake process. Because once you sign the lease, again, now I'm locked in for 6 months. Let's say that they're a professional tenant and they're destroying the property, and they got dogs and lawn is not mowed. So generally speaking with that, I would send a notice of violation or infraction. Let's say that the lawn had been mowed. Right off the bat, the mailman drops something in your mailbox saying you're in violation of section 2.5, regular maintenance of the lawn.
Does the paperwork, does the website, does the program do all that?
It does not do that part. I do that part myself. You know, if I'm driving by and I see the yard, I mean, it's a pre-form letter. All I do is just type in somebody's name and address. You know, change the date on it, and I send it out either by email or mail. And then once they get that, and you drive back by, the lawn is mowed. But if you start out with the small things, then you don't have to worry about the big things. And I just, you know, I had actually it happened last week, as a matter of fact. You know, she said, Mr. Black, it's been raining so much. I said, I'm cutting mine, everybody else cutting theirs. That's what you got weeded. Put some rubber boots on, get out there with the weed eater and knock it down. No excuses. It needs to be maintained. And she took care of it. Come on, Prince.
Are the applications state specific?
They are state specific. And that's one of the beauties of the software. I think they're out of Chicago, but it's state specific. So I had mentioned about the criminal code procedure 4702 about the 5-day waiver.
Right.
That one is not in there, but you know, I was aware of it through attending some SBREIA classes. So you can add that to the lease, and that's what I did. So I made that a part of my standard lease from that point on
You
because
uploaded your lease as opposed to using.
I started out uploading my lease, but theirs was so robust.
Yeah.
It covered so many things I hadn't even thought of, and that's why I can send a notice, infraction notice that you didn't mow the lawn or you knocked out a window or whatever the case may be. Mr. Hyde.
So you said that this software can integrate with other softwares. Like personally, I use QuickBooks.
Yes.
I use QuickBooks for all of my businesses. I love online QuickBooks. You said that it does download into Excel, but what other programs does it download and sync to? Like for example, my QuickBooks is tied to my bank account. I push update, I see Home Depot charge this. I see QuickBooks software charge this. I see a credit card statement. I can split each transaction for my own accounting. Does it sync into other?
It does, but see, for the details that you're talking about, I use Quicken for home and rentals, and you use QuickBooks. So that's a more detailed, robust software, particularly for accounting. When you go to see
What is QuickBooks or Quickens?
I use Quickens owns QuickBook,
Okay.
so they're the same company. I think it's Intuit.
Yeah, Intuit.
Yeah, so it's the same company. They started out with Quicken for home and rentals. So once I bought the software, then I just stuck with it. Then they came out with QuickBooks. Just a smaller version. They added some more components to it. But the advantage of that, now you can sort of detail, your profit and loss, run all kind of detailed statements. This one does not do that. But for all of your profit and losses, you just download that into Excel, then you upload that Excel into Quicken or QuickBooks.
Okay.
Same data.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Single property, multiple tenants over X amount of time. You basically load that particular applicant, renter in your system, and they stay a year. And then you have another one. Are you able to download as a package that tenant's information and then store it in a folder and be able to retrieve it at a later date for whatever purpose?
Yes.
And then set up your new tenant in the same property and start all over?
So when the tenant is filling out the application, it has like data fields, first name, last name, address, phone numbers, and then it sort of captures that information and puts it off into another package for you. So the answer to your question is yes, it does. And so when you do not honor that lease, or you don't want to, that tenant moves out someplace, she moves out, then of course I've never went in to remove the data. I think you might have to manually do that. I'm not sure about that part. So I'm a type person that if I don't know the answer, I'm gonna tell you that I don't know. I never done that before, but I would think that you would have to manually go in and remove those persons. I'm sure it's just a little X in a box in place to say, remove tenant.
Okay. Otherwise, you have to, the new person going to that property would be on top of the previous.
Oh no, it has a thread line. So let's say that I rented a property
That's
for.
all unique to that particular.
Yes, let's say I rented it out for 6 months and they moved out in 6 months.
Right.
All right, well then, at the end of that lease, it stops. So now that house is getting ready for rent. I get a new tenant. Once they sign the lease, all of the information goes back. And I can see the last 5 tenants if I want to. Yeah, that's built into the software. Janet?
Oh, I think you answered the question when you were, but tenants you can communicate with tenants through it, correct?
Yes, you
were
can.
saying?
Yes.
Do you use it that way?
Oh, yes, I do.
Because sometimes the phone thing, there's something.
Yeah, you don't want the tenant to have your phone number.
Well, I know, and also sometimes they report something to me, and I communicate to my sister, who actually kind of calls all the repair people and all.
Right.
And then, but sometimes they talk for so long, I can't even remember what they told me. You know what I mean? It's like, there's some really chatty Cathys out there, and I'm off the phone, I'm like, okay, what did they call me about, and they were talking.
Well, here's the thing about
like
it.
a running thing of what's wrong, when it's wrong, and all that, but it's really hard, I'll take notes.
Right.
And then
See, this software will be excellent for you because if there's a maintenance repair,
Yeah.
then again, there's some training going on. Either you training the tenant or the tenant training you.
You're training us, yes.
Meaning that I'm gonna train them, you gonna pay on time. If you don't pay on time, you paying a late fee. That's automatic. That's not, no debate on that. If you start saying, well, yeah, I understand that, your cat died and, you can pay, next week. Okay, then the grandmama died. No disrespect to anybody in here. Well, I start off as firm as I can. I learned this from 33 years of policing. I start off as firm as I can. I hold on tight. And eventually, when they prove trustworthy, then I release. They prove trustworthy the next 6 months, then I release. As a matter of fact, I got one tenant. They're in this. I'm 62, so they're probably about 65 above. But they believe in, they don't want to do no software. They believe in the mail thing. Well, if this thing got lost twice, I called them today. Got lost in the mail. The first time it happened, they did, let's say it's a United States Post Office money order. And 2 weeks, I got my money. Well, this time they went to some, I don't want to say the wrong thing, some local convenience store, maybe a liquor store, and got a money order. These people are saying, it's going to be, another month. I'm not trying to get my money. So I'm out of my money. That's why I use this software. I don't have the income coming in, but these people have never missed a payment.
Yeah.
If they never missed a payment. As a matter of fact, when they got lost, they called me and said, Mr. Black, can you come by and get your rent money? Now I was outside mowing lawn. All the lawnmowers went off. I went and got a shower. I'll be there within an hour. Now that's my time, but that's actually my money.
Yeah.
It wasn't their fault. They never missed a
That's kind of
payment.
out of the ordinary.
But to answer your question,
Is it a good way to-
it is a good way to interact with them. I have a Google phone number. I got my regular personal phone number. I got a Google phone number.
We're talking about that another
Yes,
day.
we did. So
Yes.
I'll use that Google phone number. Go back and forth on the text if they're outside of the software.
Okay.
So I'm texting back and forth, and they're saying, we got a pipe leak. Okay, take a picture of it. Then I just forward that to my repair guy, or I tell him I'll be up there, within an hour.
Download into this program, or?
Now, you take a picture, upload it into the software, take a picture of your properties for listing, upload into the software. If they tell me it's a leak or the, panel broken or floor, hole in the floor, take a picture of it, so I can get an idea of what I'm dealing with when I get there, or my maintenance guy have an
You kind of
idea.
keep a record of it too. can't
Yes,
you?
because they have the work order built into the software.
Okay.
Work orders are built into it.
So they don't have your personal number, you said you use the.
Do not have my personal number. I use the Google phone number, and you can only call that thing between, I want to say, 8 and 5. I mean, you can call it after, but you're gonna get a voicemail.
Yeah, okay.
But I pay close attention, particularly during the storm coming through. The main thing is that for the emergencies, fire, water, storm, something like that, if they call and you need to answer. So I pay attention to that, but just regular 9 to 5.
Okay.
So you can't call me at 7 o'clock and say, we got a problem. You type it in on the veil code. I get it, and you get a response back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had one. They type it in. I go to bed early and I rise early. 8:30. I'm going to the back. I'm already ready to tuck in. I'm up at 5, going for my little 3-mile walk. But that's one of the things I do once I get back in.
Check in.
I check the emails, check the responses, see if I got anything. Where they had a plumbing problem overnight. I just call my plumber, send him on the way. What time you gonna be there? After 12. Text him back, he'll be there after 12. Take a picture of it. Done.
Question.
Sure.
The accounting part of the system, is it married to your bank specifically and by property? Can you do that? And is it a real-time banking function? For example, you see all the deposits, you see the withdrawals coming out of your bank account that perhaps is set up with that specific property.
They are linked. The software links your specific bank. I use my checking for my income, and I use my savings account for the security deposit.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But that's your whole portfolio. Will it separate according to the property, the specific property that you're talking about?
Yes, I say that you would Barstow Federal Credit Union. I say that NASA's would capture one bank. Well, on the tenant side, and I didn't even get a chance to speak about that. On the tenant side, when she signs up, she puts in Capital One Bank. And when it's time to pay rent, it draws out of Capital One Bank. When it's time for you to pay rent, it draws out of Barstow Federal Credit Union.
I think he's asking you, can you have multiple bank accounts with avail for the property?
Yes,
Good.
yes, yes.
And when I look at my bank statements, I can identify this property, these numbers go with this property.
Yes.
And it shows as a separate transaction from X property over
Yes,
here.
yes, it does. So what I learned to do, let's say if I got 3 properties and they both rented $825. Well, I just, if for the ones that was doing the mail thing, the one that I have, when I go to the bank to make the deposit, then I tell them to put 1233 in the memo. I know that's 123 Cherry. I know that property numerical address. So I know that one from 4021 in the memo. If they're all 825, and who paid which?
Right.
Well, I'll just use the numerical address on the house in the memo. So when it comes through on the bank transaction, it has the amount deposited from Western Union and 1233 or 4021.
Yeah, but it's one statement. You're getting one statement, right? You're getting one checking or one savings account statement with those multiple
Yes.
entries on that statement.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to identify several properties across the board. So at the end of the year, I can print out that property for the tax man without having to pull individual.
Okay. All right. So let's say, for an example, like Mr. Hyde. He used QuickBooks. All right. If you got 5 properties, I use Quicken, the same type basic software. If you got 5 properties, then you have to manage that individual property on the income and expenses.
Right.
And then with Quicken and QuickBooks, I can hit a couple of keys and I can see whether this property is cash flowing properly within the last 2 months or whether I lost money in the last. When I first started out, I think I made some money and I got candy wrappers and papers, I'm writing on stuff. Then I went to a spreadsheet. That did pretty good, but it wasn't integrated because I still had people calling my phone.
Right.
I couldn't enjoy my life. I've been retired since 2015. So when I got this software, I get a few interruptions, but it's by phone. And I can respond at time, anytime I feel like it. I don't have to be with a phone on my ear. Or I can be at dinner with you and get a text on the phone with a property that has a problem. Excuse me, now, press for a minute. I just type that. Okay. Yeah. He'll be over there in 15 minutes. So it's pretty easy. Yeah. I think they have a little, I don't want to go too far with this. I do know that they, just for entry level, say you want to try out the software.
Right.
It's free, but you don't get all the full robust. So you can try it out. And that's pretty much what most people do. I mean, they sort of entice you just to try it out. They give you 4 or 5 little functions.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, this is okay, but now I bought 3 more properties. Then when you buy the robust, like I have, then you get all the functionality of it.
Okay. Do all of the potential applicants pay the same amount for their application?
Of course. You don't want to have any deviation from that.
Yeah.
Hyde paid $30 and I'm charging you $55. You can get a discrimination suit.
Yeah. Application fees are all the same.
Application fees are all the same. It does have a little option. I never use this function. Do I want to pay or do I always let them pay? In other words, I have something that you want. I have the leverage. You're going to pay. You got to go through this portal, my portal, and once we complete everything, I'm happy, you're happy. And one of the things that it doesn't have, so I have a little checkoff list, and they're pretty much, they're online, you can download them. So we go through the house with the checkoff list, checking the plugs, light switches, just do what you got to do. If you find something wrong, check off on it, and I'm gonna send a guy back to fix it right away. And before you move, I get that thing taken care of, and then that particular form that I use is uploaded into the software. So when I come back for 6 months, and then I see holes in the floor, I do 6 months inspection. That's one of the things where I do 6 months. So now they're lost in destruction of property. So I come back and I usually change the air filters white, so I can get in and take a look at the property. and I see something I don't like, okay, well, I just make a little note of it.
Right.
And so now I'm coming back, you hadn't fulfilled your obligation of taking care of my property. Now you're getting these little notices of, infraction notices. So this guy's really ticket. Yes, I'm not gonna let you destroy my property. And this just goes into another level. During COVID, where, there was mandated by the federal government where you could not evict them on non-pay. I didn't have no problem getting them out. I never got them out on non-pay. I got them on loss and destruction of property. Your money is not good with me. I don't want your money. I want my property back so I can rent it to a qualified tenant who's gonna pay me on time, so I can get some passive income going. There's 3 types of passive income? Income, what is it? Active income, what is it? Active income, passive income, and portfolio income. Active income is where you actually have to be someplace, 8 hours a day working. You trading your time for money. Passive income is, that's why we're in this business, for cash flow.
Yeah.
I'm at home getting mailbox, online money, and then of course portfolio income is what you receive from your dividends from your investments. So, any other questions?
The tax man, have you had it to go through one tax season yet?
Yes, here's the key. He used QuickBooks, I use Quicken. That is a total robust type of, this one is not built for that. It just, you can upload that to that. But when I print out Quicken, I started out going to see my tax person, and I thought I had a pretty good system, with my spreadsheet.
Right. Real good.
No, I just email the whole thing to them. Click, they got it.
Do you use like a QuickBooks or a Quicken or anything like that, or you use a spreadsheet?
For years, I used that Quicken, it's called property management software.
Yes.
It was interactive with my checking, bank accounts.
Yes.
It was comprehensive, but the problem was it stopped. It wasn't as accurate as I needed it to be. It was, numbers were missing. It would be a deposit, I wouldn't see it on the website. It was messy, so I got rid of it. It was called Quicken Property Management Software.
QuickBooks, love it.
Yeah.
It's $15, and it's a lot of, there's lots of them out there, but I like QuickBooks because it has higher level functions besides specific rental stuff.
Yeah.
You have to customize it, your chart of accounts, what you want. I do, with my rentals, maybe 1 hour of accounting a month, and then come tax time, I spend 25, 30 minutes going click,
Yes.
click, and then I hand my tax.
Property.
Well, so when I do my accounting for each property, I have, like, one of my houses, 4010 Grove, repairs, utilities,
Right.
S, and I have different accounts, rent collected, mortgage,
Right.
interest.
Yes.
And then I just go click, click, click. I spend about an hour printing off all of my reports. And then I go, here you go, and then all my other stuff. And I say, here you go. That's it. Best $15 a month and best
Yeah.
hour of your month you can spend. Because you don't have to like shoebox receipt or anything. You don't do anything.
Yeah.
That's QuickBooks you use.
QuickBooks.
It's the same.
The one he uses is it's simple. It doesn't have all the extra stuff. I use QuickBooks because I have for my other business.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Right.
It has more of the. I send my invoices on it, so when I do send, you can send invoices on QuickBooks. So
Yes.
instead of you can like, has anybody received like a QuickBooks invoice before with their email?
Yeah, Tammy does it all the time. Yeah.
I mean, it's the best thing in the world. And that's how I pay. Some of my tenants pay me sometimes.
Right.
Through QuickBooks?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have a couple subs that do nothing but payments through QuickBooks. They email me an invoice, I click pay, I enter in my credit card processor gets 3%, 2 from me, 1 from him. He gets in his QuickBooks checking account and transfers it right over.
Yep.
Awesome.
And you use,
I think we're using the same software. They did have some problems updating it, but they cleared all that up.
you talking about the one I used?
I think I was a similar, I believe, but I don't have any issue with mine. I think one time there was a glitch in it. Some of my data was lost, and I got on the phone with them.
Yeah.
They updated it, and I've been rolling ever since.
Yeah, That's what I was gonna ask you. They update this, Avail updates their program periodically or backs up your system, et cetera.
Yes, it does. Yeah, they're pretty good with that.
Did you say the report section at the very end, it was at the very end?
Yeah.
Did they cost extra, you said?
No. The only report that cost was $20 for the rental analysis, and unfortunately, it was a little bit blurry up there. But that's one of the best investments that I did. I was looking at a property, and I kind of sort of wanted to get an idea of what were the comparables in that area. Let's say zip code 71118. So it printed out all the properties within the area that was a 4-bedroom, 2 baths, and what they was renting for, what the market was doing, as well as what was Section 8 paying for. So now, when I'm talking to the people was already living in the house when I bought it, so it was undervalued. So now I have to have a conversation with them. This guy hadn't raised the rent in 3 years. I can't do those numbers. So I had a conversation with them. I guess sometimes how do you cook a frog? I mean, how you boil a frog? You just a little bit at a time. You crank that thing wide open, the tenant's gonna jump out. So I had a dilemma. I'm gonna increase it $50 for this 6 months and then $50 the next 6 months to get them where they need to be, or do I'm just gonna charge them an extra $100? Unfortunately, I think I forgot to send them a notice of the rent increase, like 30 days. I got busy and forgot, so then it was locked in for another same amount so I said, you know what? So I sent the letter right away. Next month it's gonna be an extra $100. Go ahead and start thinking about that 6 months out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So
We do 50 a month for bad tenants and 50 increase every lease for bad tenants if you're good tenant 25.
oh yeah,
Like if you have
outstanding.
no late payments, you take care of the house, we don't ever keep it stagnant.
Oh yeah.
I like $25, it's enough, but nobody ever balks at it.
Right,
But
right.
If you're a crap tenant,
Yeah.
$50
Yes.
because you're going to tear it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you something else I learned too, particularly like at the end of the year. Man, for those good tenants, man, they get turkeys or ham free of charge from OT Black.
We do $100. We do $100 off November's rent.
Yeah.
For the tenants that've been with us. Or
Man, you'd be
future.
surprised as far as customer relation, and you binding them to your customer relations. That you know what, you've been a good tenant, hadn't had any issues out of you. Here's your turkey for Thanksgiving or Christmas for ham. I mean, come on. I mean, I got 2 or 3 of those in the deep freeze. So they're not getting in my deal business, I can tell you that. All right.
One last, one last question. With their lead generation, when they start submitting interest for the homes, how long does it keep them in the queue? Does it send an update? Hey, I see you tried to apply for a spot. Here's what we may have coming on the market. So does it give you a follow-up like that at 6 months, a year?
They got canned responses in there that you can click. If you are a lead and you say I'm interested in the property at 103 Main Street, then I will click on a canned answer and say, I'm glad you're interested in the property. What day and what time would you like to meet? All I gotta do is click. Then they respond back as she was mentioning that software, and you can schedule there. But
I was just wondering, because I thought about that. I said, with the people, like the gentleman that you told, sorry, it's already rented. I just wondered, does it give them a follow-up, 90 days, 180 days? Hey, I see you applied. We may have something coming on the market soon. If you're interested, that's why I was just wondering, does it?
can't. Marcus, I'm a funny guy. If I don't know, I tell you I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think I ever used that.
Yeah.
Generally, when it rents, if I got 10 people looking at it and when it rents, I know who they are, and I send them a canned answer that's rented and send that adverse action. I click on that as well. So, but it's been it's very cost effective, and it keeps everything in one spot for me. It's intuitive, and a couple of clicks, and I'm on the way.
It's a property manager without the labor of somebody else's back. It's everything that they would do, but when you do it yourself. Pretty cool.
It is, and if you get to the point where you got 15 properties and you really don't want to be dealing with the incoming. I'm a small guy. I kind of sort of like the incoming. I go out on some of my repairs with my specialists when they're making repairs, just so I can get an idea of what they're actually doing. I got a basic idea. Most of my, I have a master's degree from YouTube University, so I get a general idea of what's going on. All right. Any more questions? All right, if that's not any more questions, then that wraps up my presentation for tonight, and thank you guys for coming out.
Can I say something real quick? Hey, excuse me, everybody, real quick. If you get a text tonight, it is not spam. That's going to be the SBREIA Google Voice text number. So if you have any questions, if something pops up on your mind at 1 a.m. and you have a question, you can submit it there, and then we can kind of submit it through the network of people to get an answer. So when you see it, it'll say, hey, this is SBREIA. Add this number to your phone so you'll know it's us. All right.
Dolores, can you step up just a minute before we close out to give an idea on who our guest speaker for next month will be?
Yes. Yes, I sure will.
Again, we're trying to,
We're going to have Scott Hughes in our board meeting last week. We had somebody that had said we'd like to know this here buying and selling process, get us all the way through it from start to finish. So Pat Presley, one of our board members, she said that Scott Hughes was great at that he did it all the time. So Scott Hughes is coming next month, and I told him if he needed it, he could take over an hour, because he's going to give us what the property in Shreveport, are we going up, are we going down, how many have we got, are we low, are we got too many properties. He's going to give us all of that. He is on that board of the Northwest Louisiana Realtors Association over there on East 70th. And I think he's been around a long time. So anyway, he has spoke to us before, but he will be very good at helping us with this. We don't always buy and sell a lot. See, I've sold 2 last year, 2 this year, but I don't normally do that. So this buying and selling, most of the time, is kind of Greek. We don't always know exactly what's going on. So it's very helpful what he will share with us. It's going to be very helpful, because I found that in selling my last property last month that some of these buyers, was my 4th one, see, in last year and this year, some of these buyers, I think they expect you to have a new house. It's got to be brand new. Well, I had it as a rental property for 33 years. It was one of the first ones my husband and I bought. And we argued about a hot water heater after we had an accepted contract, we had an appraisal, everything was okay. We had a home inspection. But for whatever reason, this buyer wanted a hot water heater, and we actually kept on, my realtor did, she kept on wanting a new hot water heater, and the one that was in there was fine. And I don't know about y'all, but some of this new stuff breaks down so fast now, until I'm kind of the older one. I'm kind of like the older stuff that wasn't built to break down. So anyway, you have to watch some of these buyers. Out of 4 buyers, that's the only one. But until I didn't know I was going to close on that Wednesday afternoon, because she was still saying something to my realtor, and finally my realtor said, let's forget this. I said, I don't want to hear more about it, because it had just got to be, until I stayed over at that house for 4.5 hours the morning we were closing at 3 in the afternoon, and I don't do that sort of thing, but I was going to make sure it was done, and it was done right, and they was going to answer to me whatever. I got tired of all this hassling. I'm not used to hassling. But anyway, we're going to have Scott Hughes. I got off the subject a little bit, But anyway, he will be great next month, and we're gonna probably have a longer meeting because I told him to take plenty of time for all this. He's looking forward to coming. If y'all have any questions, any thoughts, please bring it to him. And wasn't Tommy great tonight?
Yeah.
Wasn't he great? Thank you, Tommy. This was such a needed topic, and everybody here pretty much needed an answer from Tommy on all this. But he had done that for a while. See, I had him to do it probably 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. I don't know. I finally talked him into it, and he told us about it. So this was one of our little programs we had set aside, and I'm glad everybody got a lot about it. I did. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lois. And now we stand at adjournment, please. We are done for the day.
We're done.
Thank you, Mark.